Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Specs Talk, where we talk about all things eyewear. Today we're diving deep into the world of understanding your prescription, decoding those numbers and terms that might seem like hieroglyphics at first glance. By the end of this episode, you'll have a clear understanding of what all those numbers mean. So for those that don't know me, my name is Teresa, and I'm a licensed optician and owner of Simplify Optical, where I offer mobile optician services, bringing my amazing eyewear experience to the doorstep of Simcoe County and Georgian Bay residents. So let's jump back into today's topic of understanding your prescription. So I'm going to start with the basics. When you receive your eyewear prescription, you'll notice a few abbreviations like OD and OS. OD stands for oculus dexter, which is Latin for the right eye, while OS stands for oculus sinister, meaning the left eye. Next, you might notice VA. VA stands for visual acuity and indicates the sharpness and clarity of your vision. This is based on the eye chart where the standard is 20/20. So if you see numbers such as 20/25 or 20/40, what it means is that even with correction, your vision will not be as clear or sharp as possible. And there are a variety of factors that can influence or cause this, such as amblyopia, cataract, glaucoma, or other ocular conditions. Understanding what your VAs mean will help you to have a realistic expectation when you get your new glasses. So if you have developing cataracts, for instance, you may have a VA in one eye that's 20/30. So until you have surgery to correct the issue, there's nothing that your glasses can do to improve your vision beyond that. So now let's talk about the numbers themselves. The first thing you'll see is the sphere power, which indicates the amount of nearsightedness or farsightedness. So think of it like a thermometer. 0 degrees means that there's no refractive error, meaning no prescriptions required. Positive numbers indicate hyperopia and require a plus power to correct. So your prescription would have a plus symbol in front of it. Well, negative numbers indicate myopia and require a minus power to correct it, and you'll have a minus symbol in front of it. So I'm just going to take a short, shallow dive into how our visual system works. In a nutshell, the images that we see are a result of light rays passing through our pupil that come to a single point on our retina, which is connected to our optic nerve, which then sends the signal to our brain for interpretation. A refractive error is when those rays of light do not land directly on the retina. If rays come to a point behind the retina, it's known as hyperopia. And if the rays come to a point in front of the retina, it's called myopia. The unit of measure for optical power is called diopters, and they typically will move in increments of quarters, either minus or plus power, as mentioned earlier. Next up, we have cylinder and axis, which always go hand in hand and which come into play when correcting for astigmatism. So unlike spherical correction, where the rays of light either fall in front or behind the retina, with astigmatism, the rays of light are landing on the retina, but they're dispersed in many different directions instead of a single ray of light. And this is due to the irregular shape of the eye. I always give the example of our eyes being shaped more like an egg, where it's tapered at one end instead of being spherical like a ping pong ball. So this irregularity causes images to appear blurry or distorted regardless of the distance. So the cylinder value represents the dioptric power required to correct the issue, while the axis indicates the orientation of the correction that's needed. So prism is another term that you might see on your prescription, and it's prescribed to correct eye alignment issues such as double vision or to help relieve eye strain. Now, a prism bends light to align your vision so that only a single image is seen, and prism will always include a direction: base up, base down, base in, or base out. So next, we're going to move on to add power, which becomes relevant as we age and experience presbyopia, which is when our eyes gradually lose the ability to focus on near objects. So add stands for the additional correction that you need for close-up tasks. And it's used in multifocals such as line bifocals or progressive, and it's used to calculate the strength for your single vision readers. So now I just want to touch base on your options to filling a prescription that has an add power. On your prescription, you might see a lower add power such as plus 0.5 to plus 1, which can help alleviate eye strain from digital devices, and are typically used in anti-fatigue lens designs, while higher add powers are necessary for tasks like reading. Usually in add powers of plus 0.75 and up, you can enter into a starter or first-time progressive lens. So the difference between the two is that an anti-fatigue lens, your add power is in the bottom of your lens with no transition in power, While a progressive lens, there's a gradual addition of power in the lens from your pupil downward towards the bottom of the lens where your full add power strength is located for that close-up reading. So towards the middle of the lens is what is known as the intermediate zone. And that has about half of your add power that's typically used for viewing objects at arm's length, such as a computer screen. So an anti-fatigue lens, they're not the baby progressives because, as I said, there is no corridor where that power progressively increases. It's just an additional boost of power in the lower portion of the lens. So typically there's no peripheral blur to the same extent where a progressive will have. I will be making another video later on that'll go into much more depth as to the differences in lens designs, but for the purpose of this video, just know that the add is to help you with your near or close-up vision. So when it comes to wearing progressives for the first time, waiting for higher add powers before making the switch from single vision to progressives can lead to more discomfort during that initial adaptation process. So a lower add power means it's easier and quicker to adapt because lower add powers means there's less distortion experience. So again, lower is better to kind of jump into a progressive. If you sort of wait till it gets higher, then you're going to struggle a little bit. So another abbreviation that people ask about that's not necessarily recorded on your prescription is PD, which stands for pupillary distance. And this is the measurement between your two pupils when you're looking off into the distance. So you might have this recorded on your prescription as a single number, such as 64. So when a PD is recorded this way, it's giving the distance between the two eyes combined, or what is referred to as binocular PD. So if you've ever purchased glasses online, you might notice that they'll ask you for your PD, and if you don't have it, you can typically find apps either on the site you're purchasing from or online, another app that will take this measurement. One of the points I want to clarify here is that those apps are not always accurate, and there are a few factors that come into play. So the first one is when you're holding a device such as your phone to take that measurement, you're typically looking at an object about arm's length away. When we look at an object in the distance, our eyes are in its natural viewing position. The closer an object is, our eyes naturally turn inward and downward for close-up. So there will be a slight difference in your measurement versus having your PD taken manually. The other factor is user error. Holding devices in the proper manner and even having your head in the correct position can influence that measurement. So the best practice for taking PDs is monocularly or individually. And that means, well, you have two numbers written down. And this is important because you want that prescription to sit directly in the center of the lens in front of your pupil. So realistically, you want to measure from the center of the nose to the pupil center for each eye. So in our example of a PD of 64, that would mean that by default, each eye would be 32, when they're making the glasses. But if we were to take the monocular PD, we might find one eye is 33.5 and one is 30.5. That's a 1.5 millimeter difference, which may not sound like much, but in the optical world, millimeters, even tenths of millimeters matter, and can be the reason why you might feel an eye strain or a pulling sensation. So there you have it, decoding your prescription in a nutshell. Understanding those numbers, I hope, will empower you to make informed decisions about your eye health and vision correction. And remember, it's never too early to prioritize your vision. And if you have any questions or would like to learn more, feel free to contact me at simplifyoptical@gmail.com. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay updated on future episodes of Specs Talk. So thank you for tuning in. Until next time, keep rocking those specs.